Ukraine's minerals and rare earths and oil and gases, and we have a great understanding. I think it's going to be great for Ukraine. We're going to be at the site. And we'll
team also spoke with the Secretary General of NATO on numerous occasions, and I want to thank all of the people that are here that have been working on it, and we'll let you know what happens. It'll either be fairly soon or
expect to be paid back, and we didn't have that honor under the Biden administration. He sent money, or just sent it, money after money after money, and never had any knowledge of ever seeing it back. Maybe $300 to $350 billion, but under the breakthrough agreement, very unusual, which everyone said was difficult to get, but it's really very good for Ukraine and very good for us. The American taxpayers will now effectively be reimbursed for the money and hundreds of billions of dollars poured into helping Ukraine defend itself, which by and of itself is a very worthy thing to do. We've paid far more than any other country, and with most of our support, it's been paid in military, the finest weapons anywhere in the world. This includes vast amounts of military hardware, ammunition, and various other things that we now have to start rebuilding our own stockpiles. Additionally, the minerals agreement will provide the basis for a more sustainable future relationship between the United States and Ukraine, and thus stimulate the long-term prosperity that will help the Ukrainians rebuild their country. It's been demolished, and the ruined infrastructure, as you know, is in
military, the finest weapons anywhere in the world.
Over 1 month,
this includes vast amounts of military hardware, ammunition, and various other things that we now have to start rebuilding our own stockpiles. Additionally, the mineral.
Our approach is basically common sense. As I said, so many of the things that we do are based on common sense. If you want peace, you have to talk, both sides.
This agreement will provide the basis for a more sustainable future, relate to long-term prosperity that will help the Ukrainians rebuild. Over 1 month, our administration has already achieved more progress toward peace than years in the other administration where they did
nothing. We're not
nothing.
talking about Americans, we're talking about Ukrainians and Russians are being killed every week, thousands. And it's a rough battlefield. It's a
Our
flat piece
approach
of land.
is basically common sense. As I said, so many of the things that we do are based on common sense. If you, as I discussed with Prime Minister Starmer,
and this week, I saw the reports, and it's I don't even want to say what they are, but thousands of people, young vibrant people died, and we want to stop that. Senseless, should have never happened. This will lay the groundwork for a long-term peace agreement that will return.
the next step we're making is toward a very achievable ceasefire. We hope that that can happen quickly.
Instability to Eastern Europe, and hopefully ensure that such a terrible war will never.
Quickly, because in this case, we're not talking about Americans, we're talking about Ukrainians and Russians. A rough battlefield, it's a flat piece of land, and the bullet only stops when it hits somebody.
It's a horrible thing.
And this week,
going on.
I saw the report, it never happened. This will lay the groundwork for a long-term peace agreement that will return stability to Eastern Europe, and hopefully
capabilities. In many cases, 4% or 5% of GDP would be appropriate. I know that they're raising it. I just read an article, a great article about the work you're doing in the UK, and we're working on that as we speak. I think we'll have the confines. I think we'll have something maybe even in terms of possibilities agreed to very shortly. JD's working on a vice president, and
What you're doing
Scott
in the UK
and,
as to the
just looking at
military,
this
you're
over
raising
from
it quite a
Mike, you're
bit,
gonna
which
work on
is
it.
a great
Everyone's
thing
gotta
to do
work
for
on
your
it. So we
country.
can do
It's a great thing to do.
pretty quickly,
It's
but
sad
we're
that
gonna
we
make
need
some
that,
great
but
trade agreements
probably
with the
need that.
UK
So
and with the Prime
congratulations on that. I know you
Minister.
got it
And,
through.
it'll happen very quickly.
After years
So I
of
just wanna
chronic
thank you again, and
underfunding,
please
there's an
thank King
urgent
Charles
need
for
to
the
catch
invite,
up
and,
for some
I look forward to you giving our acceptance on behalf of the United States.
country
Thank you
today.
very much.
Working together, I believe that will once again demonstrate the power of our country's unique friendship. This is
Thank you very
indeed a
much,
unique
Mr.
friendship.
President.
It's
Thank you
been
for your
many
hospitality.
years,
Thank you for your leadership.
and I think
This
it's
has been a
only
very
gotten
good and very
stronger, and
productive
we will
visit.
make sure that it
With
stays
your
that
family
way. We're
roots
going to
in
have
Scotland
a
and
great
your
trade
close
agreement,
bond with His
one way or
Majesty
the other.
King.
We're going to end up with a
It's
very
good
good
to
trade
know
agreement for
that the
both
United
countries,
Kingdom has a true friend
and we're working
in
on
the
that
Oval
as we
Office.
speak.
And it was so
I
good
think
to see
we'll have
Master Winston Churchill
the
back in his
confines. I think we'll have
place just a
something
moment
maybe
ago.
even in
But
terms
look, in a
of
moment of real
possibility for
danger
Mike.
around
You're
the
going to
world.
work on it. Everyone's going to work on it. We'll see if we can do something.
The relationship, this relationship matters more than ever. We remain each other's first partner in defence, ready to come to the other's aid, to counter threats wherever and whenever they may arise. No two militaries are more intertwined than ours. No two countries have done more together to keep people safe. And in a few weeks, we mark VE Day, the 80th anniversary of victory in Europe. Britain and America fought side by side to make that happen. One of the greatest moments in our
Pretty
history.
quickly, but we're going to make some great trade
We stand
agreements with the
side by
UK
side still today, and we're focused now on
with the
bringing
Prime
an
again. And
enduring end.
please thank King Charles for the invite, and I look forward to you giving our acceptance on behalf of the United States. Thank you.
Well, thank you very much, Mr. President. Thank you for your hospitality and your close bond with His Majesty the King. It's of real danger around the world. The relationship, this relationship, matters more than ever. We remain each other's.
Of tremendous opportunity. To reach a historic peace deal. A deal that I think would be celebrated in Ukraine and around the world. That is the prize. But we have to get it right. There's a famous slogan in the United Kingdom from after the Second World War. That is that we have to win the peace. And that's what we must do now. Because it can't be peace that rewards the aggressor or that gives encouragement to regimes like Iran. We agree history must be on the side of the peacemaker, not the invader. So the stakes
First
couldn't be
partner
higher.
in defence,
And we're
ready to
determined to
come
work
to the
together
other people
to
safe.
deliver a good deal.
And in a few weeks, we mark VE Day, one of the greatest moments in our history.
And fair.
We stand personal commitment to bring peace and to stop the killing. You've created a moment of tremendous opportunity to reach a historic peace deal, a deal that I think would be celebrated in Ukraine and around the world. That is that we have to win the peace.
That peace will last. Mr. President, in this
It can't be
new era,
peace that rewards the
you're
aggressor.
also right that
that
Europe
gives
must step up. And let me tell you now, I see the
Encouragement
growing
must
threats
be
we
on the
face,
side of the
and
peacemaker,
so the UK
not
is
the
all
invader.
This
So the
year
stakes,
we'll
they
be
couldn't
giving
be
more military
higher.
aid to Ukraine than
And
ever.
we're determined fair
And just this week,
that Ukraine will
I've
help
set out
shape
how we're
this
shouldering more of the security burden. We're already one of the biggest spenders in
backed
NATO.
by some closely with other
And now
European
we're
leaders
going
on
much
this.
further.
And I'm clear that the
Britain's
UK
biggest
is ready
sustained increase in
to put
defence
boots on the
spending
ground
since the
and
Cold
planes
War.
in the air to support a deal,
This isn't just
working
talk,
together with our
it's
allies,
action.
because that is the
Rebalancing
only
the
way
transatlantic
that
alliance,
peace will
making us
last,
all stronger,
that Europe
and
must step
standing
up.
for our shared values.
And let me tell
and
you
shared
now,
security.
I see the growing
As
threats we
Britain
face,
always has.
and so the
Mr. President, it's no secret we're from different political traditions, but there's a lot that we have in common.
UK, Ukraine
And
than
we
ever.
believe it's not
And just
taking
this
part
week,
that counts.
I've set out
What
how we're
counts
shouldering more
is
of the
winning.
security burden.
If you don't win,
We're already one of the
you
biggest
don't
spenders
deliver.
in NATO,
we're
and now we're
determined to
going
deliver
much
for the
further,
working people of Britain
rebalancing
and
the
America,
transatlantic
who
alliance,
want and deserve
making and
to see
shared
their
security,
lives improve.
as Britain
So we're
always
both in a hurry
has.
to get things done.
And
And
Mr.
that's
President, it's
what
no
the
secret
UK
we're
and
from
US do when we work together. We win and we get things done. So we'll do what it takes to keep our people
in
safe.
common.
We'll
We
also
believe
work
it's
together
not taking
to deliver
part
some
that
big
counts.
economic wins
What
that can benefit
counts
us both.
is winning.
We have a $1.5
If you deliver for the
trillion
working people
invested
of
in
Britain
each other's
and America,
economies,
who
creating
want
over
and
2.5
deserve
million
to
jobs
see their
across
lives
both
improve.
economies.
So
Our
we're both in a
trading
hurry to get
relationship is
things
not
done,
just strong,
and that's what the UK
it's
and
fair,
US
balanced,
do
and reciprocal.
when we work together.
We're leaders together
We
in
win,
so many areas,
and we get things
ranked
done.
1 and 2 in the world
So we'll
as
do what it
investment
takes to
destinations.
keep our people safe.
1 and 2 for universities.
We'll also work together
1 and 2
to deliver
for
some
Nobel
big
Prizes,
economic wins that
1
can
and 2
benefit
in
us
golf
both.
as well.
We have a
And by the way,
$1.5 trillion
and we're the
invested
only
in
two
each other's
Western countries
economies,
with trillion-dollar tech sectors, leaders in AI.
creating over
And look, we
2.5
take a
million
similar
jobs
approach
across
on
both
this issue.
economies.
Instead of
Our trading
overregulating these new
relationship is not
technologies,
just strong,
we're seizing the opportunities
it's
that they
fair,
offer.
balanced and
So
reciprocal.
we've decided today
We're
to go
leaders
further,
together in so
to
many
begin work
areas,
on a new economic
ranked
deal
1 and 2 in
with
the
advanced
world as
technology
investment
at its core.
destinations, 1 and 2 for
Our two
universities,
nations together
1 and 2
shaped
for
the great
Nobel
technological
Prizes,
innovations
1
of
and
the
2
last
in
century.
golf as well,
We have a chance
by the
now
way.
to do the same
And we're
for
the only
21st
two Western
century.
countries with trillion-dollar
I mean,
tech sectors,
artificial
leaders in
intelligence
AI.
could cure cancer.
And
That
look,
could
we
be
take a similar
a
approach
moonshot
on this
for
issue.
our age.
Instead of
And that's
over-regulating
how
these
we'll
new
keep
technologies,
delivering for our people.
we're seizing
There
the
are so many
opportunities that they offer.
opportunities. Keep our nation
So
strong
we've
and
decided
fulfill the
today to go
promise of
further,
greatness
to
that
begin
has
work
always
on a new
defined
economic
this
deal
relationship.
with advanced technology at its
Finally,
core.
to
Look,
underline
our two nations
the
together
importance of this
shaped
bond.
the great technological
It was my
innovations of the
privilege
last
and
century.
honour
We have
to
a
bring
chance
letter
now
with me
to do
today
the same for the
from His
21st
Majesty the
century.
King.
I mean,
Not only sending
artificial
his best
intelligence
wishes,
could cure
but also
cancer.
inviting
That could
the
be
President
a
and the First
moonshot
Lady
for our age.
to make a state visit to the
And
United
that's how
Kingdom.
we'll keep delivering for our people.
Unprecedented
There are so many
second
opportunities.
state visit.
Keep
This
our
has
nation
never
strong
happened,
and fulfill the
before.
promise of
It's so
greatness
incredible
that has
it will be
always
historic.
defined this
And I'm
relationship.
delighted that I can go back to His
Finally,
Majesty the
to
King
underline,
and
to
tell him that
underline
President Trump has
the
accepted
importance
the
of this
invitation.
bond.
So thank you. Our team has
It was
allowed
my
me to get
privilege
to
and
set a
honour
date, and we
to
look
bring a
forward to
letter
welcoming you
with me
in the
today
United Kingdom.
from His
Thank you once
Majesty
again.
the
Thank you
King.
very much. What a beautiful
Not only
accent.
sending his best wishes, but
I
also
would have been
inviting the
president 20 years
President
ago if
and the
I had
First
that
Lady
accent.
to make a state visit to the United Kingdom. An unprecedented second state visit.
Okay,
This has never
let's see
happened
here.
before.
Go
It's so
ahead, please.
incredible, it will be historic. And I'm delighted that I can go back to His Majesty the
You
King
told me that
and tell him that
you believe that foreign countries pay tariffs, but Americans who are concerned about higher prices believe, as most people do, that they're paid by consumers and importers when they import things into this country. Can you explain how you came to this belief that foreign governments are
consumers
paying
and
tariffs?
importers when they
And,
import things
the
into this
Prime
country.
Minister,
Foreign governments are
did you
paying
discuss
tariffs.
with President Trump
And
his
for the Prime Minister,
repeated,
did you discuss
statements of
with President
desire
Trump
to
his,
annex Canada?
and has the King expressed any
concern over the President's apparent desire?
Inflation, and it's a myth. It's a myth that's
concern over the President's apparent desire to
put
remove
out there by
one of
foreign
his
countries
realms
that
from
really
his
don't
control?
like paying tariffs.
So I'll go
and
ahead, the first
especially
part.
to even up. So we've been treated badly, but a lot. We're using tariffs, and I find, and you just have to look at the numbers, but I find that it's not about inflation, it's about fairness, and the inflation for us has not existed. And I don't think it's going to exist. We're going to bring our car industry back. We're going to bring our chips back. We're going to bring so many things back to our country, including pharmaceuticals and drugs. And the thing that's going to get us there is tariffs. And I say often it's my favorite word in the dictionary, but I always preface that by saying now, because I got into a lot of trouble with the fake news where they say that's not good. So I say God, love, family, wife. They're all my favorite words, but tariff is about number 4 or 5 on the list. But I will tell you, it's going to make our country rich, and it's going to stop us from being a laughing stock all over the world, because we have been taken advantage of like no country has ever been taken advantage of. Thank you very much. And
look, we had a really good discussion, a productive discussion, a good discussion, as a result of which our teams are now going to be working together on an economic deal. Our team is going to be working together on security in Ukraine. You mentioned Canada. I think you're trying to find a divide between us that doesn't exist. We're the closest of nations, and we had very good discussions today, but we didn't discuss Canada.
Thank you. Please. Go ahead. Go ahead, yes. Thank you.
Sir, pardon me. Mr. President, do you support Article 5 of the NATO
Treaty? You mentioned Canada. I think you're trying to find a divide between us that doesn't exist. We're the closest of nations, and we had very good discussions today, but we didn't discuss Canada.
I support it. I don't think we're going to have any reason for it. I think we're going to have a very successful peace. And I think it's going to be a long-lasting peace, and I think it's going to happen hopefully quickly. If it doesn't happen quickly, it may not happen at all. And we want it for 2 reasons. Number one, I want to see on a humane basis. I want to see soldiers stop getting shot, because largely it's soldiers now. Towns have been obliterated. But it's largely that, and I don't want to pay billions and billions and billions of dollars, nor
Ukraine. How much should the U.S. expect to receive, and when do you expect to see that come to fruition?
Well, we're never going to know that answer, but by our being in Ukraine and doing the exploration and also the digging and taking the rare earth, which we need in our country very badly. We'll be doing a substantial amount of work, probably about
question for the Prime Minister.
We hope to be able to do that.
Thank you. Mr. Prime Minister, you were asking the President today about a backstop.
You never know when it comes to that. You know, you dig and maybe things aren't there like you think they're there, but we'll be spending a lot of time there. It'll be great for Ukraine. It's like a huge economic development project, so it'll be good for both countries. Okay. Please.
Prime Minister, excuse me, Prime Minister, you've talked about putting British soldiers' boots on the ground in Ukraine in the event that President Trump succeeds with his peace deal. But can you do that without a firm assurance that America will have our back in the form of some kind of security guarantee, were Putin to breach that agreement. And Mr.
Ukraine, that is a lasting deal that sticks, and we're obviously working with other European countries on that, France and NATO. In particular, but I think I'm hosting 18 countries on Sunday to further out.
And Mr. President, tomorrow you're seeing the United States. Will you take the opportunity?
Defence and security, we've been doing that in recent days. You saw the announcement we did to that. I've made it clear that the United Kingdom will play its full part, and NATO in particular, but I've got...
We have each other's backs, and today we've been talking...
And are you expecting Commonwealth countries to also join the effort? Thank you.
So we're working very hard in the Middle East and Gaza and all of the problems, and it's been going on for years and years and centuries and centuries. It's a tough neighborhood, but it could be a very beautiful neighborhood, and I think we're going to come up with some pretty good solutions. But
going to get along really well. Okay, we have a lot of respect. I have a lot of respect in that sense. Yeah, please, go ahead.
Complete. We've had some people that have been very seriously injured, very seriously hurt, both physically and mentally. They've come out of there very, very, some of them in very, very bad shape. It's shocking. Many young people,
colleagues, and to NATO, but to other countries as well, because, as I say, I think it's important for European countries, including the United Kingdom, to step up and do more in the defence and security of Europe and our continent and the United Kingdom, and we'll do so. Well, we're talking to a number of other countries.
Yeah, on the question of
Big red, flaming red. Go ahead.
Particularly in the last few weeks, we had a meeting in Paris last week to further our discussions. Obviously, we've been talking quite intensely to our French colleagues and to NATO, but to other countries as well, because, as I say, I think it's important for European countries, including the United Kingdom, to...
Do you see it fit into your general Middle Eastern strategy? Thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you very much. We're open to many things, but before I even think about that, that's almost pleasant to think about, because that would mean that peace has been arrived at. We have to arrive at that peace, and you know, you went 3.5 years with an administration that never even really had a meeting. They didn't have a meeting on peace, and there was no prospect of peace. I think frankly, Russia wanted to go through the whole long deal. I don't think they do anymore. I don't think they do. We had a very big impact on that whole situation. But I don't like talking about phase 2 until I get phase 1. Phase 1 is I have to make peace. And we have to get Russia to agree. We have to get Ukraine to agree. And I think we will, I think we've come a long way. I believe we're going to get it done. I wouldn't say that if I didn't think so. And I think it will be very important, very historic, and we're going to save a lot of lives.
On the question of Gaza, the last few weeks of the ceasefire have been very impactful, and for me there are two images that I remember more than any other.
We have to arrive at that peace, and
who is British, being reunited with her mother. You may remember she had
really had a meeting. They didn't have a meeting on peace,
after
and there was no prospect of peace. I think, frankly, Russia wanted to go through the whole long deal. I don't think they do.
Her mother went through absolute torture. The other image was thousands of Palestinians marching through rubble, trying to return to their communities and their homes. So we have to do everything we can to ensure that the ceasefire continues, so that more hostages can be returned, so that aid can be brought in that's desperately needed. We need to allow Palestinians to return and to rebuild their lives, and we must all support them in doing that. And yes, I believe that the two-state solution is ultimately the only way for a lasting peace.
The first is Emily Damari, who is British, being reunited with her mother. You may remember she had her fingers missing after.
And we had others that came home in much worse shape than that. It's a terrible situation. Please, yes.
Thank you. Mr. President, did our Prime Minister persuade you not to put tariffs on the UK? And if I may, Prime Minister, do you think that Vladimir Putin is a man who will keep his word? Thanks.
He tried. He was working hard, I'll tell you that. He earned whatever the hell they pay him over there. But he tried. I think there's a very good chance that in the case of these two great friendly countries, I think we could very well end up with a real trade deal where the tariffs wouldn't be necessary. We'll see, but he earned whatever they pay him. He earned today. He was working hard at lunch, and I'm very receptive to it. I think
we need to allow in the region.
And think of that, she came home with her fingers and part of her hand blown off.
It's terrible.
How bad does it get? And we had other
terrific, really terrific for both countries. Okay.
There's that terrible situation. Please, yes.
My views on Putin are pretty well rehearsed.
He tried. I think there's a very good chance that in the case of these two necessary, we'll see. But he earned whatever they pay him. He earned today. He was working.
Putin knows that this deal, a historic deal,
in all fairness, in all seriousness, I think we have a very good chance at arriving at a very good deal. JD and Scott and Howard, all the people are working on it, and I think we have a good chance at arriving at a deal that could be terrific, really terrific.
I think we're going to end up with a great trade deal with you, and it's an honor to be with you, and I want to thank everybody very much. Thank you very much. Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you.
So we just heard there a press conference being given by President Donald Trump featuring the UK Prime Minister. On your screen you can also see JD Vance out there speaking to some more folks who were in attendance. Both President Donald Trump and Prime Minister Starmer talking about their meeting that they had earlier today. We also played back some of that Oval Office meeting for you of it early on.
Both countries, okay?
Thank you.
On the second part of the question, there's a deal, and I hope there is a deal, that it must be a lasting deal, that it's not a temporary measure, and that is why I think it's go again or go further.
Let's go back to some more of
I think we'll have two deals. I think we'll have a deal on ending the war, and I think we're going to end up with a great trade deal.
President Trump and the UK Prime Minister. Taking a look here at a post on X from the White House saying President Donald J. Trump responding to an invitation from King Charles for a second state visit, saying, quote, "We look forward to being there and honoring the king, honoring the country." So that's just one of the highlights that have come out of this meeting from both of the world leaders today. A live now look at the White House, as we also want to touch on the latest when it comes to the war between Russia and Ukraine, because that was one of the major talking points for both the Prime Minister and the President. And it comes ahead of the fact that we know that tomorrow, on Friday, Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky saying that he will meet with President Donald Trump to sign a preliminary deal giving the United States a share of critical raw materials. Still, Ukraine does want guarantees of peace and security in that
and the UK Prime Minister. Taking a look here.
Leaders working closely with the Ukrainian president, also trying to bring
an invitation from King Charles for a second state visit, sitting from both of the world leaders today. A live now look at the White House, as we also want to touch on the latest when it comes to the war between Russia and Ukraine, because that was one of the major talking points for
casting away to compensate the U.S. for the billions of dollars in aid that it has sent to Ukraine. That was one of the focuses and one of the goals that President Trump had when it came to all of this aid that the U.S. continued to give to Ukraine. President Zelensky is saying that the framework deal with the U.S. on Ukraine's critical raw materials was nearing completion, though key details were still under negotiation. We're hoping that tomorrow we will get some sort of a speaking arrangement, some sort of remarks given by both President Donald Trump and the Ukrainian president. We are monitoring that for you. We will bring it to
several other countries there to the table to see how we're going to reach that peace finally between Russia and Ukraine. This war has been going on for more than 3 years. President Trump saying that he and the Ukrainian president will sign that very big agreement, casting a way to compensate the U.S. for the billions of dollars in aid that it has sent to Ukraine. That was one of the focuses and one of the goals that President Trump had when it came to all of this aid that the U.S. continued to give to Ukraine. President Zelensky is saying that the framework, hoping that tomorrow we will get some sort of speak. President Donald Trump speaking as well on another war that we have been following closely, and that is the war between Israel and Hamas. This weekend, a reminder, is when that first phase of the ceasefire deal is set to end. We want to go ahead and step away for our first commercial break of the hour, but we continue with more of your day's top stories and all of these breaking news updates when we come back.
Suicidal thoughts right away. Antidepressants may increase these risks in young adults. Elderly dementia patients have increased risk of death or stroke. Caplyta is not approved for dementia-related psychosis. Report fever, confusion, or stiff muscles which may be life-threatening, or uncontrolled muscle movements which may be permanent. Common side effects include sleepiness, dizziness, nausea, and dry mouth. These aren't all the side effects.
In the darkness of bipolar 1 and 2 depression, Caplyta can help you let in the light. Ask your doctor about Caplyta. Find savings and support at caplyta.com.
The darkness of bipolar depression made me feel like I was losing interest in the things I love. Then I found a chance to let in the light.
Discover Caplyta. Unlike some medicines that only treat bipolar 1, Caplyta is proven to deliver significant symptom relief from both bipolar 1 and 2 depression. And in clinical trials, movement disorders and weight gain were not common.
Caplyta can cause serious side effects.
This
Calling a doctor
is the
about
secret
sudden
passage.
changes, behaviors, or suicidal thoughts right away. Antidepressants may increase these risks in young adults. Elderly dementia patients have increased risk of death or stroke. Caplyta is not approved for dementia-related psychosis.
And I'm on my way. Hello.
Common side effects include sleepiness, dizziness, nausea,
That's crying out for rules. There's a time out. Let's keep going. Every week you give the children a chore to do.
He's done so much to change our family.
Find savings and support at caplyta.com.
Welcome back into Live Now from Fox, where we're going to head to another live event happening right now. This one taking us out of this world. A post here from NASA on X saying a Progress cargo spaceship is launching from Kazakhstan to send food, fuel, and supplies to the space station. It's happening live now. Let's take a look.
The countdown milestone's coming up at the T-minus 7-minute mark into the countdown, about 10.5 minutes from now. The launch conductor at the blockhouse in Baikonur will insert a launch key in the launch bunker. It's a real key that transitions the launch sequence into its automated mode.
On the Dr. Phil Roku Fast Channel, the most unforgettable.
Launch Control will give a final report on the range at Baikonur that it should be clear for launch and the Soyuz rocket ready to begin its journey. A minute and a half later, onboard systems will be switched to onboard control, followed by the purging of nitrogen for the fuel lines and other elements of the rocket engines to fireproof them by removing vapors of fuel and oxidizer, particularly from the base of the rocket. At about the T-minus 2-minute 45-second mark, the booster tank will be pressurized for flight, optimizing the flow of fuel, helping to add structural support to the rocket. And about a minute and 15 seconds later, the ground propellant feed will be terminated with the vehicle fully fueled.
I'll give a final report on the range at Baikonur
that needs to head uphill. That ground propellant feed will then be terminated.
Should be a minute and a half later, onboard systems will be switched to onboard control, followed by the purging of nitrogen for the fuel lines and other elements of the rocket engines to fireproof them by removing vapors of fuel and oxidizer, particularly from the base of the rocket. At about the T-minus 2-minute 45-second mark, the booster tank will be pressurized for flight, optimizing the flow of fuel, helping to add structural support to the rocket. At about a minute and 15 seconds later, the ground propellant feed will be terminated with the vehicle fully fueled with a replenishment of the fuel it needs to head uphill. That ground propellant feed will then be terminated. The Soyuz booster will go on internal power. Auto-sequencing will begin at about the T-minus 1-minute mark. 35 seconds before launch, the first of two umbilicals that are buttressed up against the side of the Soyuz booster will retract. At about the T-minus 30-second mark, the ground umbilical will be fully disconnected. The launch command will be issued, and at the T-minus 15-second mark, the second umbilical tower will separate. That will initiate. The engine sequence start. The Soyuz will come up to full throttle, and the launch arms will basically separate, and the Soyuz will be on its way. We are counting down to the launch of the Progress 91 docking on Saturday afternoon.
Первый. Есть переход на бортовое питание. 60-й. Доклад 60-го прием. Первый. Готовность к пуску 10 минут. Первый. Готовность к пуску 10 минут. Принял 20-й. Готовность к пуску 10 минут. Принял 30-й. Готовность к пуску 10 минут. Принял 50-й. Готовность к пуску 10 минут. Принял 60-й.
You're hearing the conversation from the launch conductor at the blockhouse in Baikonur, providing updates on the status of the countdown. Everything is in great shape. All systems are go for launch.
Minutes and 45 seconds after launch. Once it separates from the third stage of the Soyuz booster, the upper stage, the command will be given for the Progress to automatically deploy its solar arrays and navigational antennas. This will begin a series of what they call DV maneuvers, delta velocity maneuvers, automatic firings of the Progress engine to basically increase its altitude in a stair-step fashion to match the altitude of the International Space Station for the start of automated rendezvous operations on Saturday afternoon. Once the Progress docks to the aft port of the Zvezda service module on Saturday, the cosmonauts on board the station, Alexei Ovchinin and Alexander Gorbanov, will be busy unpacking, and Ivan Wagner will be busy conducting leak checks at the docking interface between the Progress and the Zvezda service module before the hatch will be opened to the Progress to enable the cosmonauts to begin unloading the Progress cargo. Progress and the Zvezda service module before the hatch will be open. Progress cargo. Once again, you're looking at a live view from Site 31, Launch Pad 6 at the Baikonur Cosmodrome in Kazakhstan. Countdown clocks ticking backward from the liftoff of the Soyuz 2.18 booster just 11.5 minutes from now to send the Progress 91 cargo ship on its way towards an automated rendezvous and docking to the International Space Station on Saturday afternoon. Just to recap, the Progress is loaded with 2.8 tons of food, fuel, and supplies for the Expedition 72 crew aboard the International Space Station. The breakdown again, 2,599 pounds of hardware, food, and experiments for the crew members, 2,095 pounds of fuel, 926 pounds of water, 110 pounds of nitrogen. Minutes from now, to send the Progress 91 cargo ship on its way towards an automated rendezvous and docking to the International Space Station on Saturday afternoon. Just to recap, the Progress is loaded with 2.8 tons of food, fuel, and supplies for the Expedition 72 crew aboard the International Space Station. The breakdown again, 2,599 pounds of hardware, food, and experiments for the crew members, 2,095 pounds of fuel, 926 pounds of water, 110 tabs on the vehicle. Everything is reported to be in great shape. No issues being worked down at the blockhouse. Activities in the countdown will get underway here within the next 3 minutes, as we outlined just a minute ago. The flight control team in Korolyov at the Russian Mission Control Center outside of Moscow, carefully watching their data. The launch controllers in Baikonur also keeping close tabs on the vehicle. Everything is reported to Again, this Soyuz booster with the Progress 91 cargo craft rolled out from its assembly hangar and its integration building just a short distance away from the launch pad at Site 31 in Baikonur on Tuesday morning. As is customary, it rolled out horizontally on a railroad car, reached the launch pad about 30 minutes after the start of rollout, was hoisted by hydraulics to a vertical position and locked down on the launch pad, ready for final preparations with the gantry arms having closed around the rocket to enable technicians to hook up fuel lines. Again, this Soyuz booster with the Progress 91 cargo craft rolled out from its assembly hangar and its integration building just a short distance away from the launch pad at Site 31 in Baikonur on Tuesday morning. As is customary, it rolled out horizontally on a railroad car, reached the launch pad about 30 minutes after the start of rollout,
was hoisted by hydraulics to a vertical position and locked down on the launch pad, ready for final preparations, with the gantry arms having closed around the data lines and power lines to the
T-minus 8 minutes and counting, about 1 minute away from the launch key being inserted in the launch bunker to transition the launch sequence into its automated mode. You can see in this wider view of the Soyuz 2.1A booster, the venting of liquid oxygen. The ground propellant feed is replenishing fuel to the vehicle for the first stage in particular. That ground propellant feed will be terminated about 5.5 minutes from now.
You can see in this wider view of the Soyuz 2.1A booster, the venting of liquid oxygen. The ground propellant feed is replenishing fuel to the vehicle for the first stage in particular. That ground propellant feed will be terminated about 5.5 minutes from now.
Mark, no issues being worked down at Baikonur, where launch time will be early Friday morning. Again, the precise launch time today is 3:24 and 27 seconds p.m. Central Time, 2:24 and 27 seconds a.m. Baikonur time on Friday morning. The launch key has now been inserted in the launch bunker. Launch sequence now in its automated mode. T-minus 5 minutes, 35 seconds and counting.
We're listening here, live coverage, courtesy of NASA. There, Russian cargo spacecraft set to deliver food, fuel, and supplies to the International Space Station. Excuse me, about 5 minutes until takeoff. So we're going to use this opportunity to step away for a brief commercial break. We'll be back after this when we come back.
Coming up on the T-minus 6 minute mark, today is 3:24 and 27 seconds.
Bipolar depression made me feel like life was moving on without me. Then I found a chance to let in the light.
Discover Caplyta. Unlike some medicines that only treat bipolar 1, Caplyta is proven to deliver significant symptom relief from both bipolar 1 and 2 depression. And in clinical trials, movement disorders and weight gain were not common.
Caplyta can cause serious side effects. Call your doctor about sudden mood changes, behaviors, or suicidal thoughts right away. Antidepressants may increase these risks in young adults. Elderly dementia patients have increased risk of death or stroke. Caplyta is not approved for dementia-related psychosis. Report fever, confusion, or stiff muscles which may be life-threatening, or uncontrolled muscle movements which may be permanent. Common side effects include sleepiness, dizziness, nausea, and dry mouth. These aren't all the side effects.
In the darkness of bipolar 1 and 2 depression, Caplyta can help you let in the light. Ask your doctor about Caplyta. Find savings and support at caplyta.com.
Space station, excuse me, about 5 minutes until takeoff.
Of your business. You can see
on without me. Then I found a chance
convince sales
to let
channels
in the light.
so you ship the right products to the right customers.
$1 a day.
Happy to see you're out of the hospital and back at it.
Me too. But
my big health scare got me really
And in clinical trials, movement disorders and weight gain were not common.
thinking about you. I don't leave them in
serious
my
side
bed.
effects. Call your doctor
We're
about
just happy to
sudden
have
mood
you back,
changes,
Dad.
behaviors, or
Now,
suicidal
see?
thoughts right away. Antidepressants may increase these risks.
That's
in young adults.
$50,000 for my
Elderly
funeral
dementia
and other
patients have
finances.
increased risk of death or stroke. Caplyta is not approved for dementia-related psychosis. Report
Yes, Dad, I
fever,
don't-
confusion, or stiff
there was
muscles
no
which
medical.
may be life-threatening, or uncontrolled muscle movements which may be permanent. Common side effects include sleepiness, dizziness, nausea, and dry mouth. These aren't all the side effects.
In the darkness of bipolar 1 and 2 depression, Caplyta can help you let in the light. Ask your doctor about Caplyta. Find savings and support at caplyta.com.
Welcome back to Live Now from Fox, where we want to take you back out to this live launch that we have been monitoring here. A cargo spacecraft set to deliver some more supplies to the International Space Station. It's going to take off in a couple of minutes. Let's watch.
In the next phase of crew rotation after the commercial crew rotation of the Crew 10 and Crew 9 crews that is scheduled in March. T-minus 2 minutes, 30 seconds until launch. T-minus 2 minutes and counting. The International Space Station.
The next phase of crew rotation. T-minus 2 minutes, 30 seconds until launch.
The ground propellant feed now being terminated. Coming up on the T-minus 1 minute mark. The Soyuz about to go on internal power for auto sequence start.
The ground propellant feed now being terminated.
In about 15 seconds, the first of the two umbilicals buttressed up against the side of the Soyuz booster will retract. Internal power confirmed. First umbilical now retracting.
Coming up on the T-minus 1 minute mark. The Soyuz about to go on internal power for auto sequence start.
T-minus 20 seconds. The second umbilical about to retract. We have the sequence for engine start. Engines coming up to full throttle. Turbo pumps at full power. 3, 2, 1. And liftoff. Liftoff of the Progress 91
Internal
cargo
power
ship
confirmed.
on a delivery run to the International Space Station.
The first umbilical now retracting.
The engines are at estimated flight speed good. Roll engine yaw program. The Soyuz booster arcing out to the northeast.
T-minus 20 seconds. The second umbilical.
All engines operating normally. Good structural parameters reported from the
Engines
blockhouse
coming
at
up to
Baikonur.
full throttle. Turbo pumps at full power. 3, 2, 1.
45 seconds
And
into the flight. Good stability
liftoff.
of the vehicle as it heads uphill.
Liftoff of the Progress 91 cargo ship on a delivery run.
Engine chamber pressures are nominal. 1 minute, 6 seconds into the flight. About 50 seconds left for first stage performance. One minute, 20 seconds into the flight. Good structural parameters reported on the Soyuz booster.
45. Engine chamber pressures are nominal.
1 minute 45 seconds into the flight.
1 minute 6 seconds into the flight.
Separation.
About 50 seconds left for first stage performance.
We now have confirmation of first stage shutdown and separation. First stage shutdown occurring at an altitude of 30 miles, 73 miles downrange from the Baikonur Cosmodrome, the vehicle traveling some 4,000 miles an hour. Second stage engine up and running, performing normally. Structural parameters still reported to be nominal at the 2.5 minute mark into the flight. Second stage performance reported to be nominal. 6 minutes of powered flight remaining.
1 minute 45 seconds into the flight, about 15 seconds away from first stage separation. We now have confirmation of first stage shutdown and separation.
Coming up on the 3 minute mark into the flight.
First stage shutdown occurring at an altitude of 30, vehicle traveling some 4,000 miles an hour.
And we have the jettisoning of the launch shroud.
Second stage performance reported to be nominal.
The Progress vehicle now
6 minutes of powered flight remaining.
To the ascent profile. 3.5 minutes into the flight. About 1 minute left for second stage performance before that second stage engine shuts down and separates. Before that happens,
Mark,
the third
3
stage
minutes.
engine will ignite in a slight overlap between the second and third stages. This view now from a camera on the upper stage of the Soyuz booster looking back down. 4 minutes into the flight. 4 minutes
And we have
45
the
seconds of powered
jettisoning
flight
of the
remaining.
launch.
Second stage performance right on the money according to the launch controllers in Baikonur. 4 minutes 20 seconds into the flight. Good view from the upper stage camera looking back down the length of the Soyuz booster.
Stage engine shuts down and separates. Before that happens, the third stage engine will ignite in a slight overlap. 4 minutes and 45 seconds of powered flight remaining. Second stage performance right on the money according to the launch controllers in Baikonur. 4 minutes 20 seconds into the flight.
And we have confirmation of second stage
Good
shutdown
view from the
and
upper
separation.
stage camera looking back down the length.
Third stage engine up and running. 5 minutes 15 seconds into the flight. 3.5 minutes of powered flight remaining. All vehicle parameters, all structural parameters still reported to be nominal by the flight controllers both in Baikonur and at the Russian Mission Control Center in Korolyov. Good performance by the third stage engine. 5 minutes 45 seconds into the flight. 3
And we
minutes of powered flight remaining.
Have confirmation. Third stage engine up and running. 5 minutes 15 seconds into the flight. 3.5 minutes of power.
6 minutes into the flight.
Powered flight.
So
All
far,
vehicle
right on the money.
parameters,
Perfect
all
ascent
structural
profile for the
parameters still
Soyuz
reported to be
2.1A
nominal
booster
by
now
the flight controllers
under the power of, the
both
singular
in
engine of its
Baikonur
third
and at the
stage.
Russian Mission Control Center in Korolyov. Good performance by the third stage engine. 5 minutes 45 seconds.
6.5 minutes into the flight. Liftoff from Site 31, Launch Pad 6 at the Baikonur Cosmodrome was as planned at 3:24 and 27 seconds p.m. Central Time, 2:24 and 27 seconds a.m. Baikonur time on Friday morning.
So far, right on the money.
50 seconds into
Perfect
the flight,
ascent profile for the
less
Soyuz
than 2 minutes of
2.1A
powered
booster.
flight
Now
remaining.
Six and a half minutes into the
Third stage
flight.
performance still nominal. 7
Liftoff
minutes,
from
20
Site
seconds into the
31,
flight.
Launch Pad 6 at the Baikonur Cosmodrome was
Once
as
again,
planned
at about the
at
3:24
and
the third stage engine will
6
shut
minutes,
down.
50
Third
seconds
stage
into the flight.
separation will occur.
Less than
The automated
2 minutes of
command will
powered
be
flight
issued
remaining.
for the Progress to deploy its solar arrays and navigational antennas. 7 minutes, 45 seconds into the flight, 1 minute of powered flight remaining. Eight minutes into the flight, so far so good. Progress on its way to its preliminary orbit. Eight minutes, 20 seconds into the flight, about 30 seconds of powered flight left. Eight minutes, 35 seconds into the flight. We're standing by for third stage shutdown and separation. And we've had third stage shutdown and third stage separation.
8 minutes into
Now
the
we'll
flight,
wait,
so
for
far
the
so
command to
good.
be issued for the
Progress
deployment
on
of the
its
solar
way
arrays and
to its
navigational
preliminary
antennas
orbit.
on progress.
8 minutes, 20 seconds into 8 minutes, 35 seconds into the flight. We're standing by for third stage shutdown and separation.
The solar arrays and navigational antennas have all been deployed normally. After a flawless launch and ascent to orbit, a good ride from the Soyuz 2.1A booster.
And we've had third stage shutdown
The Progress
and
91
third stage
cargo ship
separation.
and 2.8 tons of food, fuel, and supplies for the Expedition 72
Now we'll
crew
wait
into
for
its
the command to be
preliminary
issued
orbit.
for the deployment of the solar arrays and navigational antennas on progress. And we now have confirmation of all
This view now from an external camera on the Progress 91 cargo craft. This shows the overlay of all of the data that you'll be seeing on Saturday during the rendezvous and docking of the Progress to the aft port of the Zvezda service module. Just to recap, the launch occurred on time at 3:24 and 27 seconds p.m. Central Time from Launch Site 31, Pad 6 at the Baikonur Cosmodrome in Kazakhstan. It was an 8-minute, 46-second ride to orbit with the Soyuz 3-stage booster.
This view now from an external camera on the Progress 91 cargo craft. This shows the overlay of all of the data
will execute a pre-programmed engine firing sequence over the next
that you'll
2
be
days
seeing the aft port of the
to
Zvezda
increase
service
its
module.
altitude incrementally
Just
to match the altitude of the International Space Station for the start of automated rendezvous operations at mid-afternoon on Saturday. Back here in the Space Station Flight Control Room, the Orbit 3 team of flight controllers has begun to trickle in to take a handover from their Orbit 2 counterparts. The crew on board the
Soyuz
International
three-stage
Space Station has
booster
also entered its
performing
sleep
as
period as they await the arrival of the Progress and its supplies on Saturday
advertised.
afternoon.
The Progress now will execute a pre-programmed engine firing station for the start of automated rendezvous operations at mid-afternoon on Saturday. Back here in the Space Station Flight Control Room, the Orbit 3 team of flight controllers has begun to trickle in to take a handover from their Orbit 2 counterparts. The crew on board the International Space Station has also entered its sleep period as they await the arrival.
So with that, we'll wrap up our coverage for this afternoon. A flawless ride to orbit for Progress 91, now safely on its way to a docking Saturday at the International Space Station. Thank you for joining us today. We'll sign off for now. This is Mission Control Houston.
3 p.m. Eastern Time will be here with you on Saturday afternoon to bring you all of that activity. So with that, we'll wrap up our coverage for this afternoon. A flawless ride to orbit for Progress 91, now safely on its way to a docking Saturday at the International Space Station. Thank you for joining us today. We'll sign off for now. This is Mission Control Houston.
We're stepping away for another commercial break here at Live Now from Fox.
All right, so you saw there the ending of that coverage. A NASA cargo ship.
Top stories that we have been following, and it concerns the Epstein documents. We'll have more when we come back.
We pay the max. We pay the max. We pay the max. Let Autobide pay you the max. You're on your way to big fat stacks. We pay the max. We pay the max. We pay the max. Get the max for your pre-owned car, truck, or SUV. Go to WePayTheMax.com.
With Amazon Photos, Prime members get unlimited full-resolution photo storage and 5 gigabytes of video
When we come back.
so you can securely store your digital photos and use
Businesses
your pictures
start
to create
small,
prints,
but a lot of them take off.
You can also share and display your photos
Grows
on
with
Amazon
you,
devices,
so you can
including
sync and
Echo
manage
Show
all your
and
orders, no matter how big you get. ShipStation's custom automations maximize your team's time. Plus,
Attention all seniors. You can now get up to $50,000 for your funeral and other final expenses, starting at less than $1 a day.
Ones and zeros. Hey John, I'll have that to you in about 10. Alexa, when's my next meeting?
Your next event is at 3 p.m.
But from 5 to 9, Alexa, set the vibe. That's when I do my thing.
With my girls set to take over the family business, I want to make sure I don't leave them any of my debts.
We're just happy to have you back there.
Now see,
At the hospital? Didn't you have to take a medical exam or something?
no, there was no medical exam, and I was able to get coverage right over the phone. Plus, my benefits can never be decreased, and my coverage can never be canceled.
Dad, I'm glad you made that call.
Call 800-281-0672 now and see if you qualify for up to $50,000 for your starting at less than $1
Welcome back into Live Now from Fox, where we are following
a day.
some
Be
breaking
approved
news
even if you
regarding
have pre-existing health
documents
conditions.
detailing
Your
some of the
rates can
crimes
start
committed
coverage
by
right over the
Jeffrey
phone.
Epstein. Taking a look here at a post from Fox News on X, in which they say Epstein files : Pam Bondi sends fiery note to Kash Patel accusing FBI of withholding docs. So according to Fox News, Attorney General Pam Bondi sending that letter to FBI Director Kash Patel today, accusing federal investigators in New York of withholding thousands of pages of Jeffrey Epstein documents she has vowed to make public. Now, I do have a copy of that letter that was obtained by Fox News. A live now look at the Capitol building as I read to you what the Attorney General had to say. She goes on to say this: Dear Director Patel, before you came into office, I requested the full and complete files related to Jeffrey Epstein. In response to this request, I received approximately 200 pages of documents, which consisted primarily
in thousands of pages of Jeffrey Epstein documents she has vowed to make public. Now, I do have a copy of that letter that was obtained by Fox News. A live now look at the Capitol building as I read to you what the Attorney General had to say. She goes on to say this: "Dear Director Patel, before you came into office, I requested the full and complete files related to Jeffrey Epstein. In response to this request, I received approximately 200 pages of documents, which consisted primarily in flight log."
You were just as surprised as I was to learn of this new information. She goes on to say, by 8 a.m. tomorrow, February 28th, the FBI will deliver the full and complete Epstein files to my office
in New York was in possession of thousands of pages of documents related to the investigation and indictment of Epstein. Despite my repeated requests, the FBI never disclosed the existence of these files. When you and I spoke yesterday, you were just as surprised as I was to learn of this new information. She goes on to say, by 8 a.m. tomorrow, February 28th, the FBI will deliver the full and complete Epstein files to my office, including all records, documents, audio and video recordings, and materials related to Jeffrey Epstein and his clients, regardless of how much information was obtained. There will be no withholdings or limitations to my or your access. The Department of Justice will ensure that any public disclosure of these files will be done in a manner to protect the privacy of victims and in accordance with law, as I have done my entire career as a prosecutor. Finally, she says, I am also directing you to conduct an immediate investigation into why my order to the FBI was not followed. You will deliver to me a comprehensive report of your findings.
As you see from this video just a couple of weeks ago.
Transparency for the American people, and I look forward to continuing to work with you to serve our president and our country. And then it's signed, sincerely, Pam Bondi. Now, you may remember that Pam Bondi, the Attorney General, she was the one who swore in FBI Director Kash Patel, as you see from this video just a couple of weeks ago. Just to reiterate here, a Fox News.
She said the FBI had never disclosed the existence of those files and demanded that they be turned over by Friday morning, 8 a.m. Friday morning Eastern Time, in accordance to that letter. I do want to bring up some more reaction posts on X from several Congress members, representatives, several lawmakers here. The first one being Representative Marjorie Taylor Greene, saying the Epstein list is going to be released and much more is coming. There's
Elaine Maxwell,
raging within.
the trafficker's former
The
lover.
resistance within will be beaten and the truth will be revealed. I'm so proud of AG Pam Bondi and
Lover
FBI
knows the
Director
existence
Kash,
of those files and
both
demanded
warriors.
that they be turned over by.
And so we'll continue to follow this very closely because, again, this letter is calling for all of those documents to be handed over by 8 in the morning, Friday, February 28th. We'll be following the latest and we'll bring it to you here on Live Now from Fox. Fox News is saying that sensitive information about the victims will still be redacted.
And the truth will be revealed. I'm so proud of AG Pam Bondi and FBI Director Kash, both warriors.
She also ordered an internal investigation again into the issue and told Patel to propose, quote, personnel
There is
action
calling for all of those documents to be handed over
Live Now look at the
by
Capitol
8
building
in the
once again
morning,
over in
Friday,
Washington,
February
D.C. as we follow
28th.
the latest developments.
And we'll be following the latest, and we'll bring it to you here on Live Now from Fox. Fox News is saying that sensitive information about the victims will still be redacted before anything is publicly released.
Have been showcasing
That's
for some time now. All right, so this is happening over in New York.
according to AG Pam Bondi. She also ordered an internal investigation again into the issue and told Patel to propose.
And this comes really the second day of this. We have seen several of
Quote,
these
look at the
students
Capitol
at
building
Barnard
once again
College,
over in Washington, D.C. as we follow the latest developments
the latest with the
with
Associated
that breaking
Press saying
story.
that pro-Palestinian protesters.
In the meantime, let's turn our attention to some more of these live pictures that we're getting in on this Thursday. Back out live to this scene that we have been showcasing for some time now.
That was just yesterday, and that's according to the school. You can see for a second day in a row. We continue to
Right,
see
so this is
similar
happening
scenes
over in
there
New York in
outside
Barnard
of that
College. Now,
college
earlier
in New
today, we
York.
were
Now, the
showcasing
school
this
had warned that if the
pro-Palestinian
students were not
protest
gone by
that
9:30
still
p.m.
could.
last night, officials could be forced to take, quote, additional and necessary measures to protect our campus. The student group, Columbia Students for Justice in Palestine, said on the social media platform X that protesters dispersed after the administration agreed to meet with them Thursday afternoon. And the demonstrators demanded amnesty for all students disciplined for pro-Palestinian action, a meeting with the dean, and the reversal of the expulsion of 2 students, according to the group and their post. We do also know that an employee with Barnard College was sent to
on Wednesday, so that was just yesterday, and that's according to the
Vice President for Strategic Communications
outside of that college in New York. Now, the school had warned that the student group at Columbia Students for Justice in Palestine said on the social media platform X that
offered to meet with the protesters just as we meet with all members of our community on one simple condition: remove their masks. That's according to more personnel with Barnard College. Off there in the distance, we could also see some law enforcement vehicles that are there
being assaulted by the protesters, and that's according to the Vice President for Strategic Communications and what they said in a statement. But still a very active scene over in New York City. The protesters there encouraging other people to come to the campus, saying, quote, Barnard leadership offered to meet with the protesters just as we meet with all members of our community on one simple condition: remove their masks. That's according to more personnel with Barnard College. Off there in the distance, we could also see some law enforcement vehicles that are there in place just to make sure that the protest remains peaceful at this moment. And we'll be keeping an eye on this live look for you, as well as many other live pictures of several of these big breaking news stories. We're going to step away for our final commercial break here at Live Now from Fox. We'll be back out to more of your top headlines when we come back.
With Amazon Photos, Prime members get
Attention all seniors. You can now get up to $50,000 for your funeral and other final expenses, starting at less than $1 a day.
Happy to see you're out of the hospital and back at it.
Me too. But my big health scare got me really thinking about the future. With my girls set to take over the family business, I want to make sure I don't leave them any of my debts.
We're just happy to have you back, Dad.
Now see? That's why I made a call and found out I'm eligible for $50,000 for my funeral and other final expenses.
And you just got out of the hospital? Didn't you have to take a medical exam or something?
No, there was no medical exam, and I was able to get coverage right over the phone. Plus, my rates can never be increased, my benefits can never be decreased, and my coverage can never be canceled.
Dad, I'm glad you made that call.
Call 800-281-0672 now and see if you qualify for up to $50,000 for your funeral and other final expenses, starting at less than $1 a day. There's no medical exam.
This was a piece of culture. It wasn't
And you existing health conditions. Your rates can never be increased, your benefits can never be decreased, and your coverage can never be canceled. There's no obligation, there's no waiting periods, and you can start coverage right over the phone starting at less than $1 a day. Call 800-281-0672. That's 800-281-0672. 800-281-0672.
Throughout this Thursday, as we are approaching the top of a new hour.
You want to see Sarah. I want to see Sarah. I'll race you for it.
Got yourself a race.
I'm your host, I'm taking you out to the West Coast for this next story that we haven't been able to touch on just yet, because there have been so many big breaking news moments and live events happening throughout the day. But it does concern a major story that has made headlines around the world, and that is the family of Eric and Lyle Menendez discussing...
Welcome back, and thanks for sticking with us here at Live Now from Fox throughout this Thursday as we are approaching the top of a new hour, 4:50 in the afternoon here on the East Coast, 1:50 over on the West Coast. I'm your host, Carl Lahada. I'm taking you out to the West Coast for this next story that we haven't been able to touch on just yet, because there have been so many big breaking news moments and live events happening throughout the day. But it does concern a major story that has made headlines around the world, and that is the family of Eric and Lyle Menendez discussing in a press conference this afternoon, a bit earlier on today, the recent comments made by both California Governor Gavin Newsom and LA County District Attorney Nathan Hochman regarding the brothers' ongoing case. We know that the Justice for Eric and Lyle Coalition, that's a family-led initiative advocating for the brothers' release from prison. Now, they had planned that news conference to discuss the brothers' case and to clarify public statements made by LA County DA Hochman opposing a new trial. Now, the reasons for postponing the news conference from yesterday to today, they remain unclear, but they're saying this, that the comments made by the new DA Hochman, they described them as, quote, abhorrent dismissal of abuse evidence. Now, in a statement, Radiotv said in part, quote, we have fought tirelessly for the truth to be recognized. We are so incredibly proud of the men Eric and Lyle have become. Men who have dedicated their lives to helping others despite believing they would never get a second chance. Let's go ahead and play out some of that news conference that was held, again, a little earlier on today. Next.
Kitty's sister, this is for our family.
This is a pretty exciting time for us as the family of Eric and Lyle Menendez. And I'd like to start with Governor Newsom's actions yesterday. They are a positive step forward towards Eric and Lyle's release. We are incredibly grateful that Governor Newsom is paying attention to this case, particularly those of us, those older family members, my mother, Terry Baralt, Joan Vandermolen, Kitty's sister. This is for our family. It is a huge sigh of relief that someone in a seat of power is paying attention to what we have seen up close since Eric and Lyle have been incarcerated. We have seen their rehabilitation over the last 3 decades, with no hope of release until now. Eric and Lyle have changed countless lives since their conviction in 1996. Inmates have seen it, corrections officers have seen it, and now we need the entire criminal justice system to see it. The resentencing process has been a long journey for us. Now with the new directive to the parole board, we are confident that they will determine the brothers are not a risk to public safety, proving what we have said all along. Important in this process is that this is not a political one. We look forward to their transparency and for the findings that will be released for everyone to see. Now let's take a look at the criteria the parole board will look at. Number 1 is remorse. Eric and Lyle have expressed immense remorse for their actions that night and in the months after, repeatedly, decade after decade. I can personally attest to that.
The parole board will look at their
They look at number 2 is social history. Inmates, corrections officers, and administrators have all gone on record to say Eric and Lyle have been model people while incarcerated. They have run several programs to mentor inmates who they knew would see the freedom that they wouldn't. That is remarkable. Third, plans for the future. The parole board will look at their plans for the future. And Eric and Lyle have already done so much tangible good work while incarcerated in society. If released, they will continue to build on the work they've started.
Eric and Lyle are both in their
They'll look at institutional behavior. As everything I've just touched on shows that they have gone above and beyond to not only function within the walls of the prison, but improve the culture of that facility through their work.
Look at their lack of criminal
They have improved the community that surrounds them.
prior criminal record outside of
And then they'll look at their age. Eric and Lyle are both in their 50s. We all are. They have spent the majority of their lives incarcerated. And incredibly, they've managed to build meaningful lives year after year, program after program.
At the time of their actions.
And then they'll look at their lack of criminal history.
And Eric was 18.
They don't have a prior criminal record outside of making a horrific decision as a direct result of the abuse they endured for over a decade.
And decision making is not fully
The parole board must also factor in
as the mother of a
the fact that Eric and Lyle were still kids at the time of their actions. So Lyle was 21 and Eric was 18 at the time of the killings.
And the courts have recognized that
there is overwhelming scientific research that proves the human brain, especially areas that regulate impulse control and decision making, is not fully developed until someone is in their mid-20s. As the mother of a 17 and 18-year-old boys, I can attest to that as well.
I'll pass it over to Tamara.
Both the legislature and the courts have recognized that youthful offenders have diminished moral culpability and a greater capacity for rehabilitation based on widely accepted scientific evidence on adolescent brain development.
Eric and Lyle went in
They must
prison into incarceration during their formative years and have, for all intents and purposes, created careers for themselves while they have been incarcerated, and that is incredibly moving for all of us. While incarcerated, Eric has created and led several impactful programs in their formative years and have the Life Care and Hospice Connections program, which is an ADA awareness and support group for all incarcerated, and that is incredibly moving for all of us. While incarcerated, Eric has created and led several impactful programs, which I will detail now. The Life Care and Hospice Connections program, which is an ADA awareness and support group assisting Life Care and Hospice curriculum. Alternatives to Violence Project, AVP, is a series of workshops promoting nonviolent conflict resolution, self-awareness, empathy, and community building. Elements from the Life Care and Hospice curriculum. Alternatives to Violence Project, AVP, is a series of workshops promoting nonviolent conflict resolution, self-awareness, empathy, and community building. Eric has also led the Starlight Peace Project is a program capturing images of peace in areas affected by violence. It has successfully coordinated 30 event leaders and engaged over 150 participants. Insight meditation workshop. Eric has also led 12-step and meditation classes. This combines the 12 steps of Alcoholics Anonymous and Narcotics Anonymous with mindfulness, meditation, and meditation practices. Insight meditation workshops, which introduces inmates to the physical, emotional, and spiritual benefits of mindfulness meditation. Eric has received dozens of commendations from prison supervisors for his leadership, mentorship, and his service to fellow inmates.
Thanks, Tamara. Lyle has also made significant contributions, creating and leading impactful programs. The Adverse Childhood Experience in Rehabilitation, ACER, program is a program helping offenders explore their childhood experiences and impact and contributions to criminal behavior.
And with that, I will let Anne Maria go into Lyle's details of rehabilitation.
Through murals and landscaping. Reducing recidivism by normalizing. Lyle has also made significant contributions, creating and leading impactful. Marking the first time prison administration entrusted program, ACER program, is a program helping offenders explore their childhood experiences and impact and contributions to criminal behavior. Through mural painting and landscaping. The Green Space Project spearheaded the beautification of prison spaces through murals and landscaping, reducing recidivism by normalizing the prison environment. Over 100 inmates participated, marking the first time prison administration entrusted an inmate to lead such a redesign. The Rehabilitation Through Beautification Project, RTB, a volunteer effort supporting the Green Space Project through mural painting and landscaping. The Youth LWAP Ally, a mentoring group for youth offenders with life without parole sentences, guiding others in their rehabilitation journey. And the Wire Bulletin, an inmate advisory bulletin fostering communication between the Inmate Advisory Council to the wider inmate population. Their achievements, both Eric and Lyle, would be inspiring for anyone, but as incarcerated individuals, they are truly amazing. And now I want to talk about the narratives painted by the district attorney at the press conference, which closely illustrated those presented at the first trial. First, no one is disputing the crime, not even Eric and Lyle. All we are asking for is the DA to consider their prison record as a whole, the rehabilitation, the remorse they have expressed, and the new evidence the habeas petition introduces, which corroborates Eric and Lyle's story. While we are not surprised that the district attorney took the stance that he did with the habeas petition, we were surprised to see it litigated the way that it was in the press. With the decisions in ways that were not fully appreciated. The danger of presenting that 1990s narrative under today's laws and modern understanding of trauma is that it ignores how far we have come in recognizing the long-term effects of abuse and the systemic barriers that keep victims silent. Today, we understand that trauma rewires the brain and shapes a person's actions and decisions in ways that were not fully appreciated decades ago.